So, without further ado, let me introduce our keynote speaker for this evening. Abby Johnson's life changed on October 6, 2009, the day that she resigned from the largest abortion corporation in the nation, Planned Parenthood. That simple act has become a national news story since she experienced a change of heart while participating in an ultrasound-guided abortion procedure. Today, she travels the country sharing her story and motivating others to continue the pro-life fight. Her story has been featured on Fox News, The Mike Huckabee Show, The O'Reilly Factor, Focus on the Family, and numerous other print and media programs. Would you please join me in welcoming Abby Johnson?
Well, hello. Good evening. It is so good to be with all of you here tonight. I am from Texas, and some of us are still above water. Not very many of us, but a few of us. And I'm just so honored to be here with all of you tonight. What a beautiful place to live here in the state of Washington. This is amazing. Wow. And the blue skies, is it like this all the time? Oh, okay. Some of you are like, yes! Trying to sell me on it. Okay, got it. Anyway, I came here. I live in Austin, Texas. I came here. My husband is a stay-at-home dad. He stays home with our 5 children. We have 1 girl, our princess, and 4 boys. One day I will make a girl, another one. But for right now, our oldest is a girl. She's 8 years old. Her name is Grace. And then we have 4 boys under 3. I know, it's a lot. And I tell people we became pro-life and we couldn't stop breeding. So, but we have four boys. So we have an almost 3-year-old, an almost 2-year-old, a 9-month-old, and a 2-month-old. And you're like, how did she do that? Well, our 2-month-old is actually adopted. About, 3 months ago, let me kind of back up. My closest friend lives in Maryland. And she is a sign language interpreter, and she interprets for a deaf community that comes to her church. And there was a woman there who was pregnant that she interpreted for in her congregation, and she knew she was pregnant. The woman was married. She had 3 other children. My friend didn't think much about it. But one day after church, she went up to her and said, "Hey, look, I just want to let you know that there's a pregnancy center here. I don't know if you ever need help, but if you do need any resources or any help, there's a center here that can help you. I know you have multiple children." And she said, "Oh, wow, that would be great." And she kind of opened up to my friend. This woman was conceived through sexual assault. And everyone in her life told her to have an abortion. People in her church, her friends, people she had known her whole life said, "You know what? This is the one time it's okay for you to have an abortion." But this woman was strong in her faith. She's a strong Christian, and she bravely rejected abortion. Even her husband was encouraging her to have an abortion, but she stood up to him and said, absolutely not. And so she went to this pregnancy center, and she did have some needs for herself and her family. And she explained to them the situation, and they told her because she was not abortion vulnerable or abortion minded, that they would not help her. I don't know about you, but I don't think anyone is more abortion vulnerable than a woman who has conceived through rape. But they turned her away. And so she went back to my friend and told her the story. And so my friend contacted some of us, me and some other people that she knew, and said, look, she told us, kind of a brief rundown of the story, and said, would you mind, sending some gift cards to help this woman in this time of need? And we said, absolutely. So several of us sent some gift cards to help her. Fast forward 5 months. This woman had been working with an adoptive family. She made an adoption plan for her child, knew that this was the best thing for her, and one of the reasons was because she wanted to keep her child safe. The man who assaulted her actually tried to kill her during the assault, and he was in prison for attempted murder, and he did not know about the pregnancy, and they wanted to keep it that way to protect her and to protect her son. And so she knew that an adoption plan would be the safest option for her child, and she knew that because she loved him so much. She wanted to protect him. Adoption is not a rejection of your child. It's the greatest acceptance of your child, that you love them so much, you're willing to do anything to keep them safe. And so she made an adoption plan with a family. But 2 weeks before her due date, the adoptive parents emailed her and said, we've really been thinking about it, and since there's a chance that your son could be deaf, we've decided we don't want him. And so another adoptive family was called, and they were home study ready. They could have just picked up right where that family left off. They were called, and the baby is biracial. His father is African American, his mother is white. And their question was, well, how black is the dad? So they were marked off the list, naturally. And so then my friend posted in a Facebook group that I'm a part of, this is the situation. You guys might remember, I've talked about this woman before. She is needing someone to adopt her baby. Does anybody in here know anyone who would be willing to adopt a baby? And I said, we will. And so she called me and she said, are you serious? Because Carter, your youngest bio child, is only six months old. So do you really want to do this? And I said, yeah, absolutely. Baby needs a home. We're going to take it. And then I thought, I better call my husband. So I was traveling, so I picked up, I thought, can I text this message to him, or do I actually have to call? Because at this point, texting sounded more attractive, but I was like, I guess I should call him. So, but first, I wanted to get some information about the adoption process. My husband and I always knew that one day we would want to adopt, but we didn't think it would be when our youngest child was 6 months old. So we were not ready. We were not home study ready. So I just wanted to get some information about it. So I posted on my Facebook page, hey, does anybody know how you go about getting a home study completed? And my husband saw it. And he's writing on there, why do we need a home study? What's going on? And then my phone rang, and I thought, I probably did that backwards. But anyway, so I was talking to him and told him the situation, and I don't know, he freaked out for a good 24 hours. And then I told him, I said, look, Doug, if any doors start closing, then we're just going to say that that's God putting up a roadblock and saying, this is not my will right now at this time, right? And he said, okay. Well, don't you know, the doors just kept flying open, just no roadblock at all. And so within 2 weeks, we had our home study completed, background checks done. We had hired 2 attorneys, one for us, one for the birth mother, and I was up in Maryland after the birth of our son. and his name is Jude. And I know, hey Jude, I've forever destined him to that. And so I've been a person who has said that I'm pro-life in all cases, that I'm 100% pro-life, that I'm pro-life without exception. But now it's personal. So when people come to me and they say, well, I'm pro-life, except in cases of rape or incest or whatever the situation may be, that's personal to me. Because they're looking at me and saying, my son doesn't have equal value because of his conception. That's not being pro-life, that is being pro-choice with exceptions. We as pro-lifers must stand united, knowing that there are no mistakes. That God makes no mistakes when he creates a unique human being. My son is no mistake. These babies, these 78 babies that were saved, they are no mistake. And these children who didn't survive, they weren't mistakes either. And this ministry exists to not just save babies, but to accompany women on their journey so that they know that in times of crisis and times of need, there is a safe place for them to turn. I wish Jude's birth mother would have had that, but she didn't. But the women in this community, they do, through this pregnancy center. Now, I would love to tell you that I have always been an advocate for life, and I've always stood up on a stage and talked about the sanctity of human life, but you know that's not true. I wouldn't have this gig if that were the truth. I worked for 8 years as a director of a Planned Parenthood facility. Planned Parenthood, in case you don't know, is our country's largest abortion provider. Annually, there are about 1.2 million abortions provided in the United States. Over 330,000 are performed at Planned Parenthood facilities, so they are the largest chain. Planned Parenthood was founded in 1916 by a woman named Margaret Sanger. Do we know a little bit about her? She was just a gem. Margaret Sanger was a eugenist. She worked with Adolf Hitler. She was a person who was quoted as saying, the most merciful thing a large family can do to one of its infant members is to kill it. She also was quoted as saying that Negroes are human weeds that must be exterminated from the human garden. Today in the United States, we see that there are more African American babies aborted than born. 51% of African American pregnancies are aborted in the womb. In some states, like Mississippi, 72% are aborted. We are seeing her dreams come to fruition right in front of our faces. And yet, every year, Planned Parenthood celebrates their racist roots by giving out an award, their highest award, in Margaret Sanger's name. It's called the Margaret Sanger Circle Award. I have heard that Adolf Hitler was involved in the creation of Volkswagen. I think it's true. I haven't snoped it or anything, but I think that's true. I was just in Germany and I asked them and they confirmed it, so I'm going to take it as true. Can you imagine if every year Volkswagen gave out an award called the Adolf Hitler Award? That would be unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. But every year, Planned Parenthood gives out an award in the name of Margaret Sanger, the namesake of Margaret Sanger. The last time I saw a live recipient of that award, it was in 2009. 2009 had been a great year for me at Planned Parenthood. I had won Planned Parenthood's Employee of the Year award. I know you're all very proud of me. Thank you. And but I was pretty excited about it. This award came with 2 rewards, and one was a monetary bonus, a very large monetary bonus, but I made tons of money when I worked at Planned Parenthood, so that wasn't a big deal. The second reward was one I was really excited about, and that was that I got to go to our annual gala, our national gala. Every year there's usually between 3,000 and 4,000 people there. They raise, I don't know, about $15 million that night. And I got to go to the gala. I'd been before, but I'd always sat back at table 300. But this year, because of this award, I got to sit at table number 1. I got to sit at the head table with the recipient of the Margaret Sanger Award that year, who was, any guesses? Hillary Clinton. I know you're fans, stop it. But I was so excited. I mean, this woman was my role model. I wanted to be just like her. This was fantastic. I was so excited. Hillary and I had a very intimate dinner, me, her, and 10 Secret Servicemen. And I remember watching her walk up to receive this award, this very honored award. I watched her walk up to receive it, and she, gave this speech. I don't remember what she said. I'm sure it was riveting. And I remember looking at her and thinking, wow, one day I want to be that. I want to be just like her, but with better hair. And, am I right? And, that was April of 2009. In August of 2009, I sat with my supervisor in a budget meeting. We were going over our budget from the current fiscal year and the next upcoming fiscal year, and I remember looking at the budgets, and we had line items for everything. If you're an accountant, you know what I'm talking about. We had line items for every service that we provided, and one of those line items was abortion services. We call them surgical services because you don't want abortion on a budget, but we call them surgical services, and that meant abortion. And there was a unit number. That unit number of surgical services was our abortion quota, the amount of abortions that we had to sell to women every year in order to meet our budget. I guess I had seen that line item before, but we always met and exceeded our goals at my facility, so it was really never an issue. But this year, I was looking at the budget. That year in 2009, I was looking at the budget, and I thought, oh, there's a mistake. There's a misprint here, because you actually show that you want me to double the amount of abortions that we sell next year. And that can't be right, because here at Planned Parenthood, we want to reduce the number of abortions that we perform. That's what we said. I mean, I did media for Planned Parenthood. I stood in front of news cameras, I talked to reporters, and I said, here at Planned Parenthood, our goal is to reduce the number of abortions performed. And how are we going to do that? Well, we were going to do it by contracepting the masses, getting girls hooked on contraception, hooked on sex as young as 11, 12, 13 years old. We were going to start by going into their schools, beginning their sex education programs in kindergarten, educating 5-year-olds on graphic sexual position, sexual education. And we were going to call it having healthy relationships. I mean, I didn't say that to the media, but that's what we were doing. But this didn't make sense to me because I really believed that we were trying to reduce the number of abortions. So I thought it was just a typo. I thought it was a misprint. So I said this out loud to my boss. And she looked at me, she started laughing. And she said, why would we want to reduce the number of abortions? That's how we make our money. I mean, you, a bunch of pro-lifers, you're looking at me and going, duh. But I was shocked. What was going on here? And I don't remember how I justified that conversation on the way home. I don't remember how I did it. I had been justifying my sin and my life there for 8 years, so somehow I did, but I made it okay in my mind. And people ask me all the time, they say, Abby, how did you go from being this good kid? I was raised in a fantastic home. I have amazing parents. I was raised to be pro-life. I remember in high school saying I was a pro-life person. I was raised in church. So how did I go from being that person to being a person who ran an abortion clinic? How did I go from being that good kid to being someone that had not one but two of my own personal abortions? How did that happen? I don't have a silver bullet answer for you except to say that it happened just a little bit at a time. Because that's the way that sin works in our lives. I didn't go to bed one night as a pro-lifer and wake up as an abortion clinic director. It was little justifications, just little sin, over and over again, that led me inside that abortion clinic, that led me to rise through the ranks of an abortion facility, that led me to sell abortions over and over again to vulnerable women who came through our doors. I mean, let's be honest. I got their Employee of the Year award, not because I was the sweetest employee, but because I was the best salesperson. I was the best at selling abortions. That's why I was given that award. But what I know is that while Satan has to sneak around to do his dirty work, when God wants to change your life, it can happen like that. And that's what happened to me in September of 2009. I was asked to assist in an ultrasound-guided abortion procedure. Ultrasounds are a standard part of an abortion procedure at Planned Parenthood. They are done before the abortion begins. We did them for one reason, and that was to determine how far along the woman was in her pregnancy so that we would know exactly how much to charge for the abortion. And then, we made sure that the woman did not see her ultrasound, because you see, the ultrasound exposes the lie of the abortion industry. So we had to make sure that she didn't see it and possibly change her mind. So we would try to have her sedated before we did the ultrasound, or we would make sure the screen was turned away from her so that she couldn't see it. But the actual abortion procedure was a blind procedure. So the doctor has an instrument called a cannula. That's what's hooked up to the suction machine. He just blindly pokes around inside the woman's uterus until he thinks he has enough blood and tissue in a glass jar. That glass jar goes into a lab called the POC lab. POC stands for Products of Conception. What's that? That's the baby, but you can't say baby inside of an abortion clinic, so we said POC or POC, or if the staff was feeling funny, they said it stood for Pieces of Children. And inside the clinic, there was someone tasked to be the POC technician, and their job was to dump everything that was suctioned out of the woman's uterus and reassemble the parts of the baby. Why did we do that? Because if we left an arm or a foot or a head or something in the woman's uterus, she could develop a very serious infection that could be fatal to her. And that's the way that I knew abortions to be done. Our goal at Planned Parenthood was to have a woman on the table and off the table in 5 minutes for her abortion procedure. But this day in September, we had a visiting physician come in from out of town, and he was explaining to me, now hold on, this is going to be shocking. It's actually safer if a doctor can see what he's doing while he's performing surgery. I had never thought about this concept before, but it made sense. I could not think of any other surgical procedure that was done where a doctor couldn't see what he was doing. Can you imagine going in to have a root canal, and your dentist rolls up on his stool, and he puts on a blindfold, and he's like, I'm going to jazz up your root canal today. I'm going to do it blindfolded. Is that okay? I mean, would anybody still be in their dentist chair? No, right? We'd be up. That's ridiculous. How about a blind colonoscopy? Any takers? No, right? No way. But every day in the United States, almost 3,500 abortions are done in that way. It's a blind procedure. And that was the only thing I'd ever seen in 8 years. But this day, this doctor that came down, he was explaining that to me, and he was saying, it'd be great if you want to see what this actually looks like. If we have time and the right patient presents herself, you could come in and assist. And I said, okay. So that time did come, and I was asked to go in and assist. My job during the abortion was to hold the ultrasound probe on the woman's abdomen so that the doctor would be able to, in his words, visualize his target. Now, just for information, I am not a doctor, I am not a nurse, I am not certified in ultrasonography in any way, shape, or form. I'm a therapist by license and education, so if you're having a rough day, we can talk about it. But if you need any sort of medical procedure, I'm really not your gal. But inside the abortion industry, they don't care. You just have to be willing and go through about an hour-long in-house training program, and they set you loose to perform invasive medical procedures on women in your facility. And I had gone through the in-house training. I was certainly qualified in their eyes, and so there I was doing the ultrasound. We did the measurement. We found out that the baby was 13 weeks along. Now, 13 weeks, are there arms and legs, fingers and toes, heartbeat, brain waves, internal organs? Yeah, everything's there. Everything is developed by that point. And I remember looking up at the screen and thinking, it really does look like a baby. I mean, it's not. I know it's not, because Planned Parenthood told me. Now, I have an 8-year-old daughter. I've only been out of the industry 5.5 years, so I had my daughter while I worked at Planned Parenthood. And now when I was pregnant with my daughter, I found out I was pregnant when I was only 3 weeks pregnant, because that's the kind of luck I have. And then your pregnancy feels like it's 15 months long. But anyway, I found out when I was 3 weeks pregnant. Now, when I was 3 weeks pregnant with my daughter, she was a baby. But my baby was a baby because my baby was wanted. If a baby's unwanted, then it's just tissue, something disposable, something that can be discarded, medical waste. And so I was standing there looking at the screen, feeling a little apprehensive, feeling a little anxious about what I might see on that ultrasound screen, but reminding myself that no matter what I saw, this fetus, this tissue, whatever you wanted to call it, was not going to feel anything. Now, how did I know that? Because Planned Parenthood sent me a memo about it. The memo was entitled Answers to Tough Questions. Most frequently asked question I got from women having an abortion was this: will my baby feel this? And we knew we had to have a very clever answer to give back to them in response. So our scripted answer that I gave back to women thousands of times was no, the fetus has no sensory development or does not feel anything for 28 weeks. Now, do you believe that? No? Well, I did. I knew better. I knew it was a lie. And these women, they'd be sitting there looking at me. They knew it was a lie too. 60% of women that have abortions already have children at home. We're not dealing with an uneducated population of women. They know they're pregnant. They know it's a baby. Every single woman that sat in my office called her pregnancy a baby. Even women that have abortions recognize that they're pregnant with a baby. They don't call their pregnancy a fetus. They call it a baby. Even when I was pregnant with my daughter Grace at Planned Parenthood, they threw me a baby shower. So even at some level, we all knew it was a baby. But see, we have convinced women as a society that if you're pregnant and your baby was conceived in an imperfect way, or if you're going to bring your baby home to an imperfect household, which is all of our households, then the most merciful thing you can do for that baby is to kill it. Why? because we have become terrified of suffering. That's what the culture of death is about. It's fear of suffering. And you guys in particular have it here. Why do we have this whole death with dignity movement? Because we are scared to suffer. Why does abortion exist? Because we don't want women to suffer with a baby. Because we don't want babies to suffer in an imperfect household. So to eliminate the suffering, we kill. See, we have forgotten that sometimes we suffer so that we can use that suffering and draw nearer to the cross of Christ. The person who suffered greatly, more than we would ever know. But we have forgotten how to suffer with joy. We have forgotten how to suffer in Christ. So we kill. So I remember standing there and looking at that ultrasound screen. I remember the cannula, that suction tube, the suction wasn't yet turned on. I watched it go into the woman's uterus. I could see it on the ultrasound screen. I watched as it went right up next to the side of this child, and as it touched his side, he jumped. And he began flailing his arms and legs as if he was trying to move away from that abortion instrument, but there was nowhere for him to go. It was like he was trying to find a safe place, but he was trapped. And there we were, with our scrubs and our technology and our medicine and our lab coats and our machines. That little boy didn't have a fighting chance, but he did fight. The doctor asked the technician to turn on the suction machine, and he said, "Beam me up, Scotty." And the suction was turned on, and I just remember watching. And within seconds, the screen was black. And I knew that the procedure had been a success. Abortion is the only surgical procedure where I can think of where its success is dependent on the death of another human being. And I remember walking back to my office, not feeling sad, not crying, feeling shocked, feeling duped, feeling betrayed, feeling so stupid. Because I had blindly and eagerly followed their lie for 8 years. I estimate that I helped to provide over 20,000 abortions. And it had just been a lie. I can assure you, I didn't want to leave my job. I made a lot of money. I lived a certain lifestyle. I didn't want to leave that lifestyle. My husband was a teacher, so we all know how that goes. I didn't want to leave my friends. All my friends were involved in the pro-choice movement one way or another. And I didn't know who I was going to be if I wasn't that abortion clinic director. If I wasn't that Planned Parenthood Employee of the Year. My identity was so wrapped up in that evil, I didn't know who I would be without it. And I didn't want to leave, but I remember sitting at my desk a few days later. And for 8 years, there have been people that had been praying outside of my abortion facility. They were with a group called the Coalition for Life. And every day for 8 years, they were out there. Every day. And they've been telling me that they were praying for me. They had been telling me that they would help me if I ever wanted to leave my job. And I remember one day looking out there, and for 8 years I had seen them as the enemy and us as the savior of women. These women would pull in our parking lot, and the enemy, these pro-lifers, they would harass these clients trying to give them other options. And we were the safe haven. But I remember that Monday morning looking out my window and realizing that we were the enemy. And I remember watching these women pull in and hoping that they would go to that fence, take their information, and pull out of our parking lot. And I realized then that I was on the wrong side of the fence. And so I didn't know where to go, but these people had been telling me for 8 years they would help me, so I figured I'd give it a shot. I could have walked to their office because it was conveniently located next door to our abortion facility, but I thought that might look suspicious, so I got in my car and drove the 50 feet. And I called them and I asked them if I could come in, and they were a little startled by my phone call. But I remember going in and sitting there on the couch, and I didn't know if I had the guts to look at these people and say, I've been wrong and you've been right. I didn't know if I could do that. I had not been the friendliest clinic worker to them. I might have turned the sprinklers on them a few times when it was cold. I was not particularly friendly. How do you apologize for your part, taking part in the death of 20,000 babies? How do you say you've been wrong? But I remember sitting there and looking at them, and that was just all I could get out. I had been wrong. They had been right. And that I was sorry. And that I needed their help. And they had every reason to look at me and go, "You know what, lady? That's fine, we'll help you, but you're going to have to give us a big old fat apology." But they didn't. They just looked at me and they said, "It's done. It's over." And I figure that while I'm here on earth, that's probably the closest thing I'll ever experience to the scandalous mercy and grace of Christ. It was done. It was finished. So I decided that I would put in my resignation. I gave Planned Parenthood, 5 minutes notice that I was leaving, and I put all my stuff in my boss's little box. She wasn't there, thank goodness. And I walked out, and there was a young man from the Coalition for Life who was there on the sidewalk just to make sure that I got out okay and I was safe and there were no problems. And so I waved to him, and I got in my car, and I drove out of the parking lot. And I remember taking a left, and I looked in my rearview mirror, and he didn't know that I could see him. But I remember looking in my rearview mirror, and I remember seeing him just put his arms up in the air and just fall to his knees. Because I'm sure that there were times that they thought, why are we doing this? Why are we reaching out to her? She's never going to leave. It's never going to happen. But then one day it did. And it wasn't on their time. It was on God's time. And, I go around and I speak, and I stand here in front of you today as a testament to the power of conversion. No one is beyond the power of conversion because no one is beyond the power of Christ. Not one. And we're not in this just to save babies, guys. We're in this to transform lives. We're in this movement because we believe in conversion. We're in this movement because we don't just want to save babies. We want to see lives change. We want to see lives transformed. We want to see clinic workers' lives transformed. We want to see them come back to Christ. We want to see conversion in the women who are thinking of having an abortion, who are seeking abortion services. We want to see conversion in their hearts and their minds. We want to see conversion with our friends and our family who believe in the right to an abortion. And we want to see conversion in our politicians. We want to see conversion in our state and in our nation and globally. That's what this is about. It's not just about these 78 flowers up here. It's about all of these shoes and filling them with converted hearts. Because we are working to create a paradigm shift in our culture. One of death to life. That's going to take time. It's going to take outreach. And it's going to take a lot of this. See, people come up to me and they go, I'm so pro-life in my heart. You know what? That's great. But being pro-life in here, I'm not really concerned about that. I'm more concerned about how you're pro-life here. Because feeling pro-life, that's not good enough. Living pro-life, speaking the gospel of life, that's what we have to do. And I just want to go ahead and put it out there. It's not going to make you really popular. You're going to have a lot of people come against you for it. That's okay. God didn't create us to be prom queen and to be popular. God created us to speak his truth, to evangelize his flock, to be light, to speak life. My mom, she's a good Southern woman. She always says, if you're a Christian, you're not making somebody mad, then you're not a very good Christian. Those are good words. See, I don't mind offending people as long as I'm offending them with the charitable truth of Christ. And there's no gray area here. We defend life all the time, 100%, with no exception. That's what we believe in. That's what we do. That's what this center does. In a few minutes, you're going to have a wonderful opportunity to bless this ministry with your treasure. And I was talking to River a few days ago, and she said, Abby, I would love to be open more days of the week, but we just don't have the volunteers. And so maybe some of you are going to be able to bless this ministry with your time. The Bible says, wherever your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And I don't know about you, but this is where I want my heart to be. Right here with this ministry, in this movement, filling those shoes. If I lived here, this is where my heart would be. This is where my treasure would be. And I look around at our country and I think our priorities are so messed up. I mean, I was in Canada, not too long ago, I don't remember when it was. And I remember the breaking news story, there's a particular place where I was in Canada, was that they had found, in this neighborhood, they had found a pile of 10 dead cats. And that's sad. I'm sorry for the cats. But that was the breaking news story that day. It was on every radio station when I turned on. It was on every TV program. 10 dead cats. That's terrible. Nobody should do that to cats, okay? But I thought, what is wrong with these Canadians, right? And then I thought, it's here too. I don't know about here where you are, but back home in Austin, which is like, they call it the Portland of Texas. Yeah. There is a commercial for the ASPCA. Every commercial break, there's 2 commercials on for the ASPCA. And look, don't get me wrong, animals are cute. I like them all right. I believe we should protect them. We've been given dominion over them. I believe in that. I believe that they're important. 2 commercials on, every commercial break. And the commercials are terrible, right? It's like, poor Tilly. And there's like this like shaking chihuahua, and Sarah McLachlan's in the background. And I am like, I'm going to pick up the phone and donate. I mean, I feel terrible, right? Because I am a sucker for the ugly animals, right? If you got like a one-eyed cat or a 3-legged dog, I'm in. Like that's my animal, okay? But then I think, like, what is wrong with us? Really? In our country, we are more concerned, not even equally concerned, we are more concerned about the lives and health of animals in shelters than we are our own brothers and sisters in the womb. What is going on? But you know what? We have the tools, we have the power to take that back. We know what we have to do. Now we just have to do it. We already have the victory. We know that. Now we have to act like we have that victory. We have to be pro-life. We have to support ministries like this one. This is not your pro-life activity for the year, guys. It's a good start, but this is not it. Because every day, babies are dying. Every day, mothers are being wounded. Every day, families are being torn apart. Pro-life is not just about saving babies. It is about growing families. It is about transforming lives. And we want you to be a part of that transformation. We're willing to sacrifice so much for our own comfort. Tonight I'm asking you to sacrifice for the comfort of these moms who chose abortion because they felt like they didn't have any other choice. See, that's the lie of the pro-choice movement. Nobody wants to have an abortion. Women have abortions because they feel like they have no other choice. By partnering with this ministry, you are offering them a choice. I volunteer for a pregnancy center back home, and oftentimes I answer the phone, and women will call and they will say, how much does it cost for me to come there and get services? Is it free? And my answer to that question is this: no, actually, the services that we provide you are not free. There is a significant cost for the services that we provide. But because there are so many loving people in this community that care about you and care about your baby, they have taken care of the cost for you. We need you to help take care of the cost. I know everybody in here has got a kid they love. Grandchild or child or uncle. I mean, not uncle. I mean, you love your uncle too. Niece or nephew. Everybody's got a kid they love, right? What if I told you, look, I want you to take this kid you like. Here's a piece of paper and a Sharpie, and I want you to write down how much you'd sell them for, hang it on their ear and stick them out in their yard and see if you have any takers. I mean, what would be the price? I mean, if you have teenagers, you might be able to put a price on them, but what would be the price? I mean, we could never put a price on these children that we love. Well, you know what? The abortion industry can. They're about $450 a piece. We have to do better. We have to do better because we know better. When you know better, you do better. We're here because we want to do better, because these women deserve better than abortion. They deserve better than anything the abortion industry can give them. They deserve the services offered here. So I'm encouraging you to be generous, be sacrificial tonight with the gift that you give. People tell me all the time, Abby, I don't think we're ever going to win. They've got Bill Gates and Bill Clinton and stacks of bills. That's fine. That's fine. They can have all the supporters they want. They can have all the money they want. Because we have the number one guy on our side, and that's Jesus Christ. And we will not win. We will not lose this war. We are victorious. We have already won. We need to do something and act like it. Thank you all so much, and God bless you.
Okay, I have a couple of tickets for kite drawings. If you have ticket number 532, Dave and Carlene Holden and Mike Norton from the Berkeley Kite Wranglers. Very different and unique octopus kite. The white kite with the flame motif. I think we're up to 13 kites in the air right now. Maybe 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're up to 14 octopus kites in the air, and they are looking for 7 more. Sport Kite Field, Penny Langenfelter from Port Ocean, Washington. Penny travels all over the country performing at various festivals and giving